This guy is a regular now on Fox
Mike.
10 Talks.
Good to
You're
see
like
you.
once a month
Good to
or at
see you.
least, Mike.
It's tis the season. I become popular every 2 years.
Right. I know.
It's better than never, or every 10 years.
That's a good point. So I got that going for me.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Okay, so what kind of news do you bring to us today?
We got a ton of stuff. I mean, basically, with the current political environment, we wrapped up our primaries here. Now we're going to the general election for these midterms in Arizona. Battleground state, and we're looking like it. So right now, one of the national trends we're seeing is that the Democrats are slowly but surely kind of just inching their way up in the generic ballot. So kind of which way generically a voter is going to go, either the red team or the blue team, or Democrat or Republican. And so we're noticing that in Arizona, Democrats hold a +3 advantage in a generic ballot. Doesn't sound like much, but remember, Trump, a Republican, won the state by 5.5 points. So it's roughly an 8-point swing from last time, which, based on that, that's kind of tough for Republicans, especially because Republicans hold a 7-point registration advantage. So they have a pretty good advantage, but to be D+3, I mean, and here's the craziest part we found recently in our poll. Even on an issue like the economy, they trust the Democrats more on that than Republicans, which is wild. I don't think I've seen that in my lifetime, at least.
Okay.
You also did some work on the lieutenant governors, and can you share some of those numbers with us?
Yeah, I haven't released them yet, but I like you also. Why not?
Thank you.
So basically, we went and tested. So you guys, I think actually last time we were in the show, you were asking me about it, and so we went and asked folks about the pick that was on there, and basically had that San Kerr really did well for Republicans, for Andy Biggs on the Republican side. So helped solidify his base there, but he had a bit of a base problem to begin with, but it didn't help him really at all with independents or Democrats. Hobbs, on the other hand, that really helped her with independents and Republicans. So it's kind of like Biggs's pick was more of a defensive pick compared to Hobbs's more of an offensive pick. So basically, you're looking at or like the better pick, that was better. However, for impact, right, I'd say about 1/3 of the electorate thinks they'll have an impact on their vote. But for that
1/3.
Yeah, 1/3.
That still surprises me.
It's still a pretty big number,
35% say actually it could sway
but those
my
people
vote.
are probably pretty hardcore voters, right?
Yeah,
I mean, let's be honest.
sure.
The probably die's already cast there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it's not so much on those persuadable voters. So basically, it was interesting that, Hobbs's pick, was more of an offensive one compared to Biggs more of a defense, because he has a bit of a base problem. And you see that in an ARP poll that came out recently. It was done by Trump's pollster and a Democrat pollster. So, again, a bipartisan poll. And it showed that, Hobbs was, the Democrats were united behind her. Like, they were all voting for her, and none of them were voting for the Republican.
Yeah.
Where Republicans, you had much less support, and also you had like 10% of them or so voting for the other team, and then independents were leaning about by 20-25 points to Hobbs. So I mean, that's how you get a D+3 number or something along those lines.
The strategy behind it to me is fascinating, because John Giles, who you see on the screen there with Katie Hobbs, by the way, they're both going to be appearing with us next week here on Fox 10 Talks. I believe it's next Thursday. But he was a very popular mayor in Mesa. And when we're talking East Valley, we're talking about voters that trend to be a little conservative. So this was
Well, he was Republican at that time, right, when he was elected in 2014.
I think he's still
He moved to independent about 6 months ago.
Oh, he did. Okay.
So he was a Republican all those years.
All those
When he
years.
was elected, yeah.
But
Yeah.
it does take that huge chunk of voters and makes them think twice in a conservative area.
Well, and that's basically what happened. And what we showed in the data is that Hobbs's pick was it helped kind of show this narrative of anti-partisanship, right? So not going with this hyper-polarized environment that we're in right now. So, I mean, I think that's what was a smart play compared to Biggs's play was, hey, picking someone in your own party. I just think Hobbs, of the lieutenant governor picks, I think Hobbs basically got the better advantage from it.
Biggs has had this reputation of being, I guess, closely tied to Trump.
Oh, yeah. He's one of his biggest supporters.
Why then do you think he has a problem with the base?
Well, I think it's not really his problem, and that's the thing is that I don't think it's Andy Biggs's problem. I think it's the Republican base because of Trump, frankly. Because when you look at his overall job approval, he's at a record low in Arizona. It's like -18, but its economic job approval is even worse than that. And when you ask Republicans like, hey, or voters, how is he handling the Iran war? That's also terrible as well. So, I mean, they're not happy about the war. They're not happy about the prices. Because, remember, he got in the office and said, hey, I'm going to take care of these prices, which voters trusted him on that issue. It showed that's a big reason why he beat Harris. But now, let's be honest, compared to when Trump was elected now, are people better off or worse off than they were financially? I mean, you could say worse off, absolutely, based on the numbers.
And so, the president has a almost larger than life persona, I think, when it comes to people are they not, going to be going into the ballot box or filling out their mail ballot. And Trump is still kind of front of mind, even though he's not on the ballot, right?
Well, yeah, front of mind, but it's also a huge disadvantage for Republicans this election, because here's the big problem. Trump is not on the ballot. And not only that, Trump's not on the ballot, but also he's incredibly unpopular. If you look at the last, any president before, since Truman, that's been elected during their time, Trump has the lowest job approval of any president since Truman at this point in time. And what's crazy is that only twice have Republicans staved off losses in the midterms. Both of those folks that held off, it was Clinton and Bush, they had a job approval rating of at least 62% or higher. Trump's in the mid-30s at this point. And not only that, he's doing literally the worst of anyone that has happened in, 8 decades.
So are these nationwide numbers, being I guess people call it a purple state. Here in Arizona, we probably have a lot more Trump supporters than maybe, let's say,
a little bit more,
California or Oregon or Washington.
Correct. A little bit more. But also here's the problem is that you've seen is that with Trump not on the ballot, the GOP hasn't figured out how to turn that group out to vote. And also the other big issue, Trump put together this new coalition for the GOP as he kind of remade the party. He brought in more 18 to 34-year-olds, younger voters, and Hispanic Latinos. Pew Research did an interesting study where they surveyed just people that voted for Trump in 2024 and looked at how his job approval went. Of course, when he started, there was at 95%. Of course, they voted for him.
Yeah.
Of course, they're giving him a big thumbs up, right? A year and a half later, Hispanic Latinos have dropped 30 points in approval, and then 18 to 44-year-olds dropped about 30 points as well. So Hispanic Latinos, he won that group or lost that group by only 12 or 14 points in the state. Right now they're voting for the Democrats by about plus 25.
We had Sean Spicer on the show yesterday, and he said, I want to come back and talk with you guys about Congressional District 1. Jay Feely. Now, wait, hold on.
He was into it.
Yeah. What's so funny here?
We'll find out.
You got Amish Shaw. He had that primary beating Marlene Galan Woods, and you had Jay Feely, who managed to get through pretty easily on the Republican side. Kind of a two-part question for you, Mike, which is, have you seen any polling on this one yet? Do you have a feel for how it looks right now in a swing district? That's part one. Part two is, in terms of the overall congressional outlook, will the Republicans' efforts to create more pro-GOP districts outweigh, in this national election, the kind of dislike that people are having for Trump right now?
Yeah, so the redistricting aspect, a lot of that happened. I mean, Republicans gained a few seats there, but not a ton by any stretch to really give them enough of a buffer. But what you see is that what it did is last election cycle, we had 23 competitive congressional districts across the country. Now we have 16. Because, again, after that redistricting, it just made more safe seats. Well, Arizona has 2 of those toss-up races. Of those 16, we have 2, Congressional District 1 and 6. And so what that means is that more money now is going to be poured into these races since there's less competitive seats. So this is the first part. Second part is, I think they're both a pretty uphill battle. I'm more optimistic that the GOP could potentially hold District 1 over District 6. Republicans last election won District 1 by about 4 points. Roughly, where in District 6 it was about 2.5 points. Remember, Trump won by 5.5, so they underperformed that a little bit. Now, if it swung the other way, about 8 points, that's pretty hard. The only reason why I think CD1 is gettable for the GOP, they got which is Jay Feely. They got very lucky. He's the best candidate, I think, out there right now for the Republicans in the state.
Well, you brought your iPad. Before we go to break, are there any other little tidbits, new things that you'd like to chat about or mention?
Yeah, 2 quick things. One is the election, the whole narrative of possibly the election being stolen. I went and tested that again. Yeah, 70% of voters don't believe basically it's a very bad thing to bring up in the election. If you want to be like Carrie Lake and lose the general, sure, bring that up. And then the other portion, data centers. A lot of people have been talking about data centers. We actually put some numbers behind it. Is that a majority of people don't think data centers have a good impact on the state.
Yeah.
So I think there's going to be a lot of localities are going to be running into big issues about, should we put that in? But they can do it. They just got to be very smart on the way they do it, because if they don't do it right, they're all going to get voted out of office.
Okay. Well, will you come back and see us again as we get closer to election time?
Maybe.
Really?
That
Guy
means
like you.
That means yes, Ron.
Yeah, I think it's. I know. Yeah, not
The
middle.
fact that he didn't say no. Hey, the glass is half full.
See, that's what
Thank you,
Celeste is
Mike.
all about. Thank you, Mike. All right, so come